Hello, everyone. Welcome to the October 2025 meeting of the Gender Equity Commission. We're going to start by doing a quick roll call. For any commissioner that is here, please unmute and say aye once I call your name. Starting off, Deborah Gross, Nicole Turney.
Here.
Thank you. Avery Hart.
Here.
Devin Taliaferro, sorry, Devin.
Here.
Terry Minor Spencer.
Here.
Julian McLean. Rachel Shepard. Sorry about the siren. I'll wait a moment. Crystal today last names are getting me. Wamalawa and Audra Mitchell.
Here.
Wonderful. Okay, we have met quorum. So let's get started, everybody. First and foremost, I have to admit my own lack of time management, which is I did not have the chance to fully transcribe the minutes from last month. I'm going to be finishing that this coming week, and then I'll just send both September and October's minutes to all of you for us to approve in the following meeting. But in the future, that should be done every meeting. That is my bad. I've been planning an event and it fell by the wayside. The next is acknowledgement of public comment. I did not have anyone submit through the website. I will say that some former stakeholders from the Gender Equity Commission before we relaunched it did say that they watched the September meeting and felt really wonderful about the conversations that were had and some of the themes and topics that we've been discussing and kind of the policies and work that we've been discussing and moving forward with. And so just wanted to kind of give that small pat on the back that some of the stakeholders that had worked on a lot of this prior said they really liked the direction everything was going in. And so going to the next section, which is report of special committees, I've created the 5-year action plan as a special committee. The reason being is that that's going to be a continuous thing that the commission is going to have insight on. Obviously, that's not going to get done overnight or even within like 1 or 2 months. So that would be kind of a standing agenda item. Right now, my update is that I have started to develop the survey. I also went to a cabinet meeting, which means all of the department directors were there to discuss the fact that we're going to be giving this survey out to them to collect as much data as possible around kind of the services they provide or any stats that they can provide around like gender, race, et cetera, to help us understand if there's any disparities that exist. They were more than happy to help. And part of that is that I talked to Chris Velasco in our IMP team, which told me about how all the commissioners can have access to our HR data as long as we get you city emails. So I'm going to be reaching out to you in the coming days so that I can give you a pittsburghpa.gov email, and that will mean 2 things. First of all, you can have access to all of that hiring data, kind of the workforce data, because if there are disparities there, we would also want to be able to create recommendations around those things. But also, going forward, if you yourself have questions for internal directors regarding anything related to the Gender Equity Commission, it's usually a lot easier to go through your Pittsburgh PA government email so that they know that you are also a part of the commission. So it'll create a little bit more accessibility if anybody has direct questions or if anybody is like tasked with a specific item while we're developing the 5-year plan. Any questions there? Okay, wonderful. We're going to go into unfinished business. We have 2 things in unfinished business. The first one is that internal policy around pregnancy loss leave. I've had some pretty simple conversations with OMB about developing that policy and any of the costs associated with it. I'm going to have to work with them to figure out those costs. It's oddly very difficult to figure out how much other cities that have done free menstrual that have done pregnancy loss leave let me not get ahead of myself, if there's any cost associated with kind of widening the expansion of that policy. And that's something that would be asked of council if there was cost associated with it. So I'm working with them. I will also be working with Stephanie Gagney, who's on the call today, and we're going to talk more about her in a bit, to develop that internal policy and to ensure that HR can work with us on some of those things. And we're in a similar place for the free menstrual products, is that I need to start getting some figures around what the cost would be for free menstrual products. And similarly, there just isn't a lot of like freely accessible data around what it costs for a city, even if it's a larger or a smaller city, to pay for menstrual products on like a yearly basis. That would go obviously hand in hand with us providing like contraceptives around like condoms, or both external and internal. So not to say that we are not moving forward on those things. We just need to get some more costs associated with it. And I'll be starting to develop that language and then working with Deb Gross and Barb Warwick to help bring that forward to council. Any questions for either of those items?
Not yet.
Okay.
I had a question, and this might be something that that you could tap folks on the commission for our expertise or knowledge on this, but could there potentially be any grant funding or anything like that to support the free period menstrual product things? I know for some initiatives I've seen done in the city, it's been funded through some external grants. So just wanted to kind of raise that issue.
No, that's a very interesting question. I don't want to act as if I'm an expert in this specific. If anybody has any thoughts, I'm more than happy for them to speak up if they know of things like that existing. I will say I'm more than happy to reach out to brands like menstrual product brands themselves to see if there's any cost they could associate with like kind of providing these to a city, even if it isn't like a grant. At the very least, having some numbers around what it would cost would be really great to provide to council. So I'm happy to do some of that, especially for brands that are like, like chemical free kind of stuff, because obviously we don't want to introduce anybody to things that could harm them in any kind of way. So if that seems like a good kind of direction, I'm more than happy to start doing some of that outreach on behalf of the Gender Equity Commission. But Devin, I see your hand up. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that. I'm just wondering if there are partnerships with maybe even local organizations who are already doing work similar to this, or who may have, you know, the ability to partner on something like this, so that also as we're bringing in like people within the city
Yeah.
to partner on something. I just think there's so many organizations out there, that focus on things like this, that there might be some alignment that we can do to work together to have that provided for in city.
Absolutely. I couldn't
The health
agree more. I'm more
department
than happy to do some of that outreach, especially I know I can't speak as much as specifically on menstrual products, but I can say the kind of safe sex portion of that. I know there's a ton of orgs all over the city that provide like free contraceptives, and they might be interested in helping the city figure that out as well. Does that sound like the right kind of direction, Devin, when you were talking about?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful.
It's just identifying what organizations out there
Yeah.
want that are within the city, but that we could partner with
Yeah.
to see if that's a viable option as well for accessing those resources.
I love that.
That's what I was going to say, is particularly most of what Devin was saying. I know that the health department also is in that lane as well.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good idea. I can definitely reach out to them and see if they have any ideas to how we can go about that. I don't know if the county provides that sort of thing, but at the very least, they'd be able to give me an answer and maybe some direction on how we can go forward with that. So that would be very, very helpful. Thank you. Any other thoughts on the two items, the internal policy around pregnancy loss leave and the free menstrual products in city facilities? Seeing none.
Sorry.
Please, Devin, go ahead.
So I did have another quick question about
Yeah.
with the pregnancy loss leave. That's existing policy that we're changing, right? We're not creating new policy.
It would be an amendment, yes.
Okay.
The only concern I've had raised to me is that there could be costs associated with changing that policy from it being specifically women, or not women, but like pregnant people or partners of pregnant people that have lost a pregnancy for one reason or another, to people regardless of pregnancy or not being able to take reproductive leave.
Okay.
So that is kind of the one little hiccup I've had there. I don't think it should be ridiculously difficult to handle, since a lot of the cost associated with it is just kind of what would the overall cost be if like any individual person took 3 days off, is kind of the thing that we were discussing. So um I'll have a follow-up meeting with OMB next week to talk through that a little bit more. But we should be able to start kind of developing the language around what that amended policy would look like, and then working with HR on kind of what that looks like and how we can start um
Thank you.
what is the word? Yeah. Kind of ensuring that it goes forward. Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else before we move on to new business? Seeing none, Avery, do you feel comfortable going forward with the budget presentation today? Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful. Do I have to make you my co-host potentially so that you can, do you have a share button right now?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, I'll just let you share. I'm going to mute myself, and please take the floor.
Okay, cool. Okay, let me get back to the, hang on, sorry. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to be giving kind of a pretty brief overview on everything that OMB does in terms of the budget. There's kind of a lot, but I'm going to be going over the operating budget, capital budget, community development, and then ways that gender equity intersects with all of those. So this is kind of the agenda, some engagement, operating versus capital, community development, highlights of the 2026 budget, ways that gender equity intersects with the budget, and then taking questions at the end. So starting with Budgeting 101, our engagement process, we have 4 budget engagement meetings throughout the year. We also have an engage page on the website for people within the community to submit their ideas to be considered for the budget. Another way to get engaged is also just to review the resources on the website. That would include just reading over the full budgets, the quarterly reports, American Rescue Plan, annual comprehensive financial plan. And then also city planning, for those of you that don't know, has a large comprehensive plan that they are currently implementing. And there's a lot of ways to get involved with that to make the city just largely more welcoming and more equitable. And then also reaching out to 311, the mayor's office, OMB, city council offices, people just to get in touch with, to share your opinions with them. And then also not on here, I wanted to highlight is City in the Streets. I think we host like 6 or 7 of them a year, and OMB is typically always there with the table. So you're more than welcome to come and share your ideas with us then as well. So this is kind of a map of the jurisdiction of city services, and we only are responsible for services inside the municipal limits of the city. And then these are some other government entities that we interact very closely with, but are not funded by the city. That includes PPS, PRT, Department of Transportation, URA, and the Parking Authority. So there are 2 budgets, the operating budget and the capital budget. The operating budget funds expenditures that pay for most day-to-day government activities, and the capital budget are project funds, and there are specific guidelines that these projects have to meet to be included in the capital budget, and they have to have a minimum value of $5,000, have a minimum useful life of 5 years, and these are primarily funded via bonds, PAYGO, or federal or state funding. So the operating budget, the money in versus money out. The primary focuses of money in are taxes, licenses and permits, payments for services, and fines. But we do also receive money from other governments, interest, and then other small revenue sources. And then the main money out is employee salaries and benefits, pension funding, debt payments, building maintenance, fuel and vehicle maintenance, computer software, professional services. And then the capital budget is funded by primarily bond PAYGO, funding from U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and other federal and state grants. And you can see this in terms of construction that includes roads, bridges, sidewalks, parks, roadways, city-owned buildings, city vehicles and heavy equipment, major technology projects, and community development with the URA and CDBG. So this is kind of the city of Pittsburgh budget cycle. We are currently in October and November. So the mayor presented his preliminary budget last week on September 30th. And now OMB is currently making adjustments. And the mayor will formally present his budget to council in mid-November. And then that will then need to be approved and amended by council by the end of the year. And you can kind of see here how this is truly an all-year process. The spring and summer are typically for engagement, and then starting in August, September is when we do a lot of the analyze and kind of heavy lifting to actually form the budget. So these are some 2026 priorities that went into the making of the budget. Some are completing in-house projects, creating more positive opportunities for our youth, building and maintaining reliable infrastructure, prioritizing city-owned assets, coordinating projects with local utilities and municipalities, engagement with residents, and understanding how accessibility improves impact and planning to projects. So a little bit more detail on the operating budget. So the ideas for the operating budget, some come from residents, city departments, the mayor, and other external partners. To become full proposals, departments spend time building these ideas into programs. And once departments get that information to my team, myself and my other team of budget analysts make recommendations to the mayor. And then the mayor ultimately decides what goes into his formal proposal. And not everything that goes into the operating budget is new every year. The majority are not actually. Like some things are known, and that is salaries and wages from collective bargaining units, benefits, multi-year contracts, debt service. So a lot of these things aren't necessarily new every year. It's basically a continuation of services. And then the capital budget has a very similar process in terms of where the ideas come from. So a lot of that is departments, like external people within the community, and they also have a very similar engagement process to the operating budget in terms of where ideas come from and then how they get into the budget. So again, public input, city staff input, and then that kind of goes into departments, and then departments will then present to the mayor and council on what they are prioritizing. So I want to talk a little bit about community development because while they don't have their own budget, that is a large funding source for the city, and they also do a lot of work relating similarly to gender equity. And they manage funding from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. They have 4 main programs: Community Development Block Grants, the Home Investment Partnerships Program, Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS, and the Emergency Solutions Grant. And their funding decisions for how this money is spent is made via the capital budget process, public hearings, the council, and mayor. And CDBG is designed to improve the living conditions of low and moderate income individuals. And these funds are used for projects across the city, including intersection safety, vacant building demolition, staff support for healthy and active living senior centers, hunger services, housing support, public service grants, and neighborhood economic development grants. So I wanted to take a little bit of time to highlight some of the factors of the 2026 budget, the preliminary budget that was released last week. So essentially the facility usage line fee being removed a week before was a little bit stressful. But we are still able to pass or present a legal budget with revenue and expenditures increasing through 2030. We eliminated approximately 50 unfilled positions, but there were no layoffs to existing staff. And there were some additional non-personnel spending reductions to offset rising costs. And then some key things that we added was increased funding for vehicle acquisitions to invest in the city's fleet and continue investments in traffic calming and Vision Zero traffic safety projects to improve right-of-way safety. So I asked my team and some of my contacts in my departments and the grants and capital team as well, help me identify ways in which they see gender equity in the budget. I will say from our perspective, there is no specific project or plan dedicated specifically to gender equity, but these are some ways that my team feels that gender equity is seen within the budget and within the departments of the city. So the Department of City Planning, I touched on this a little bit earlier. They are currently implementing the comprehensive plan built on the just transition. This is a $6 million project, and the goal is to create a community-wide vision of the city's future. And some focus areas are environmental justice, housing, economic opportunity, neighborhood planning, and youth services. And I get that none of these, again, are specifically related to gender equity, but in terms of making the city a more equitable, sustainable, welcoming place, I think that a lot of these can kind of overlap with gender equity. And the Department of Human Resources, labor statistics based on our current hiring and staff, and then also the fair hiring practices that our HR department does implement when hiring all people, union versus non-union. The Commission of Human Relations is one of the city departments, but they are a commission. So they're technically city independent, but they are still funded by the city. And they investigate discrimination claims throughout the city and they focus on fair housing. They do a lot of work with that. They're amazing. Rachel Shepard, who is also on the Gender Equity Commission, is their director. So I'm sure she could speak a lot more on this, but she's not here today. The Department of Fire, we do have a girls' fire camp, which again, we are continuing in 2026. We dedicate $12,000 for that. That is every summer. And the goal is just to try to get more girls involved and interested in public safety. We have a traditionally low number of women in the fire department. So this is something that our fire department has tried to implement to get girls more involved and interested in it. And then within the Office of Management and Budget and Office of Business Diversity, our procurement processes take into consideration and take into account for minority and or women-owned enterprises and veteran-owned small businesses. So when we procure services, we're trying to look at the full picture and take into account when a service might be coming from someone that is of a minority or women-owned or veteran. So that was all from the operating budget. In terms of capital, there was not a lot here, but the one thing that was brought up to me was with the fire department. I believe we now have separate sleeping areas and bathrooms for female firefighters at all facilities. This was a huge issue, I believe, within the last several years. So this was a huge accomplishment. And Capital seemed very excited about that. And then within community development, they do a lot of work to support vulnerable. They work a lot with local groups who support vulnerable populations, and some of the groups that they work with include True Tea Pittsburgh, Shepherd Wellness Community, emergency women's shelters, food banks, and homeless shelters. And again, I get that none of these touch specifically on gender equity, but I do believe that there's a lot of kind of overlap here. And I'm happy to take any questions you may have, and there are my resources.
So thank you for first and foremost, Avery, for this information, for your report. A couple questions. So for the Girls on Fire, are you familiar with what has been done for outreach to get that information out that girls are needed or wanted for this program?
I am honestly not Sure. I would assume that there are probably advertisements within the Department of Public Safety and probably the Department of Fire. And probably I know we do a lot with Pittsburgh Public Schools, so I would assume that that's probably brought up with them too. But to be honest, I'm not 100% sure.
Good. Um,
I can, sorry, I can actually speak on that.
okay.
Okay.
That some of that work also comes out of the Human Resources Department. So they have in the past, I think this was the second year, I believe, that they did the Girls Fire Camp. And so they have a pool of girls that have participated. They've come from all over, whether it be Pittsburgh Public Schools, some other school districts within the region.
Mhm.
I I don't know specifically everywhere that it is advertised, but it is put out on the public safety social media and goes specifically to organizations and programs within the city. The there are limited spots, I guess, for participants. I don't know the exact number, but I think it is like in the maybe like the 20 to 25 range. I don't think that they take more students than that. And there are students who have participated in the program multiple years. I think expanding it would be incredible. Actually got to observe
Yeah.
the last day of the camp just a couple months ago. And what those girls learn in a week is pretty incredible. And they are, by the end of the week, taking on and doing some of the exercises that are a part of the physical agility testing for fire. So it is a really great program. I think that there's opportunity for expanding it because of the need to recruit more women and minorities. I think I don't know the exact number of firefighters that the city has off the top of my head, but I believe there are around 5 or 6 women out of hundreds,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
probably close to like 700 or 800 even
Yeah. Yeah, there's
firefighters.
700.
Yeah, so I mean, I think as time grows, more resources to be put into a program like that could ultimately be very beneficial. And I know that I talked to quite a few of the girls who are already thinking like, when they are ready to graduate high school, you only have to be 18. The fighter recruitment only happens every couple of years. But some of them are already volunteer firefighters in their communities and other um, you know,
Okay.
uh, boroughs and townships even. So I think that there's definitely great interest and opportunity, but I think the resources, it needs to be expanded and, be able to have staffing,
Yeah.
someone to like really, I mean, Lisa Epps does an amazing job and pulls in a lot of those female firefighters and working with the HR department. But there's more, I think, that could be done with a program like that to be able to really make the impact in the recruitment side of recruiting women and minorities into a program like that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And Avery, I know you may have said the age. What is the age?
The like the age of the girls in the fire camp.
Yes.
Um, Devin, can you speak on that? I'm honestly not sure. I think it's high school.
Okay.
I believe it is high school, so it's probably like 14 to like 18 range. I can double check.
So it's just high school, correct?
Yeah, for the most
Okay.
part. I don't think
Thank
there's
you.
been any younger, like no middle school, so it's mostly just high school. And they are still like they may have be getting ready to graduate, or they may have just graduated high school, but it's in the summer, so they're
Okay.
still within that age range. But I can find out the exact age range if
Okay.
that's helpful knowledge for anybody.
Thank you. I'm looking for my other question. Go ahead, continue on before I thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Anybody else have questions for Avery regarding the budget or any of the figures that she just talked about?
I have a quick question.
Go ahead, Julian.
I don't know if you can hear me. My headphones on.
You're a little muddy.
Yeah, these headphones don't. I can try to take them off. Uh, well, let me just try to speak up. Okay,
I can
so
understand you. Okay, go
okay,
ahead.
okay. So the bureaucracy, and let's say that we want to submit something to the budget, or we want to submit something to council for the budget. How does that process usually work from a commission standpoint? We want um, this or whatever augmentation, then we submit that to council, and then council approves it, and then they has to approve it. Can you explain that a little bit to me?
I could talk a little bit about that, Avery, and then I'm going to pass that on to you if that's okay. So it
Yeah,
kind of
that's fine.
depends on what we specifically would be asking for. So if it's something regarding just the Gender Equity Commission, like the Gender Equity Commission wants a food budget so that they can have a town hall in 2026. That would be something where we submit like a request basically to OMB to um, amend the drafted budget, and they would have to kind of talk through with council to make those amendments. If it's something regarding outside of the Gender Equity Commission, like we want to put more money towards the
building.
Firefighter Academy, for instance, be able to have more women in that program, that would be, I think, a combination of a discussion with the folks that actually oversee those programs as well as with OMB. But if I'm speaking off at all, please correct me, Avery. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I think you're pretty spot on. So admittedly, I've only been with the city for a year and a half, so this is my first like full budget season. But no, I'm pretty sure everything you said was spot on. Like I think it would like if we would want to expand the girls' fire camp, I think that request would need to come from the fire department, as an operating budget request. But I do think because I'm an OMB and because we are a commission, like we could also present something to OMB emphasizing the importance of it. So I think there could be a supplement there as well.
Great. Thank you both. And then, like, speaking to that, do we already have a budget as a commission starting out this fiscal year, or do we have to submit it? So if we want marketing materials or have a luncheon or something, is that all something new that we would
Yes.
have?
Yes. So I submitted a budget last year for the commission. So technically the commission does have money allocated to it for this year. I don't have the figures in front of me, but I believe it's somewhere between like $500 and $800 of anything from like marketing materials, like if we wanted pamphlets or like the LGBTQIA Commission, Julian already knows this, has little Know Your Rights cards. Like there's a variety of resources that the commission could create and print. So we have the budget for that. We also have I believe it's like $200 or $300 allocated to food if we wanted to do something like a public engagement with community members or with stakeholders. I asked for that to be consistent for next year just because I didn't, I'm asked to do this in like July and we hadn't met yet. So at the very least, I wanted to make sure there was some money allocated to the GEC, but it's probably going to be standard as to what it was last year,
That
which is
was
this
300.
year, just for clarity.
That was $300.
Yeah.
Great, great, great. Thank you.
Any other questions around that? Please, Devin.
Sorry, it's not a question, but I just wanted to follow up since we had that conversation about girls' fire camp. I like information to stay all in the same place.
Okay.
So I misspoke. This was the fourth year that they hosted. And the age range is 14 to 18. And they only accept 25. They call them cadets, but only 25 girls participate in the program. So it's pretty competitive as it is now, but like I said, there are girls who have repeated, who have participated in multiple years. And those girls are like probably the more like eager and excited and interested in joining the Bureau when they have the opportunity to do so. So hopefully that helped fill in the gap of information.
That's really helpful. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you.
Does anybody else have any budget related questions? All right, seeing none, Avery, would you mind sharing your presentation with everyone in the email chain just so that they have it as
Yeah.
a source to look at?
Mhm.
I'd love everybody to take some time. We don't have to create recommendations regarding the budget, but it is something that the Gender Equity Commission has the ability to do. So take some time, look at the budget or the presentation as Avery sent it. If you have follow-up questions or ideas, you can send them to me. And as an item next month, if anybody has ideas for that, we can discuss that then and potentially vote on if we want to make any recommendations regarding the budget. Does that sound right to everybody? Wonderful. And if you look through it and you think, hey, I think like the city's going in a good direction, I don't have any edits, that is all right too. But I just want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence to ensure that we're prioritizing gender equity. As you said, Avery, it's totally reasonable. There isn't one specific project or a bunch of projects that are specific to gender equity, but rather that it is integrated in a bunch of the city's services. So, if there's any follow-up questions, feel free to email me or Avery, since she is obviously the more informed about the budget itself. And moving forward to announcements, I am happy to give the floor if anybody else has announcements before I go. Does anybody have any upcoming events or things they'd like the commission to be aware of?
Well, we're getting ready for the November the 1st, 2050 city involvement over here, engagement, I should say. The city's 2050 campaign is November the 1st. It's probably going to be most likely at Langley,
Okay.
Langley School. Don't tap me with the time, but 6 p.m.
Okay.
But yeah, we're trying to get as many people. So if you can help with the because it's the city's 2050 plan, and if an email can go out to the people that's not on my email chain, that this is what's going to happen. It's November the 1st. Most likely it's going to be, but I will definitely make sure give you that 100%. Yeah.
Perfect. Terry, whenever you have everything solidified or if you have a flyer or anything, feel free to send it in the email chain with the rest of the commissioners and just ask them to share it with their own networks and we can go about it like that if that's all right with you.
Sure will. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate that. And thank you for the work you're doing to uplift that.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Do they have announcements?
Not an announcement, but sort of a request for support from anyone on the commission.
Hmm.
As we all know, the state budget has not been passed now for many months. And if you don't know, I'm the president of the board for Pittsburgh Action Against Rape, our Allegheny County Rape Crisis Center. So since July, rape crisis centers across the state have not received any of their state funding. So we're operating with, we're fully operational, but we're not getting paid to do the work that the state is asking us to do. So if you can reach out to your state representatives, state senators, and ask for their attention to this budget issue. As of 2 days ago, Philadelphia's Rape Crisis Center paused its services indefinitely. PAR is in a slightly better financial position, but as we see other rape crisis centers across the state closing their doors, which is happening, we're going to start getting a lot of that overflow and it's going to affect our services. So any support, reaching out to your electeds to help move this budget forward. It's a crisis situation across the state, and it's about to be a crisis here in Pittsburgh.
Thank you, Audra. I'd also say, similar to Terry, if there's any other information you want to send to the rest of the commission through email. Obviously, I know a lot of the commissioners, as well as myself. I am also on PAR's board, care deeply about the work that PAR does and want to ensure that it's well funded and that it can continue to do the really hard work and provide resources the way that it does. And so feel free to send anything to the email chain and we'll uplift that as we can.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anybody else have any announcements or anything they wanted to uplift?
I have one or two things. So True Tea, we have a status neutral brunch coming up, and it It's just a brunch on being HIV neutral. So people that are positive, negative, it's not about any certain status, but just getting information on where we are as it stands with research and um, prep and doxy prep and stuff like that. I will send the commissioners uh, marketing material because I do not have the date or time on me right now, but I will get that to you all, but hopefully soon. And then I don't know, I'm if Adriana's going to talk about this, but Outfest is this weekend. And so, yeah, I'll let Adriana talk more.
Yes, I'm more than happy to take the mic in this moment. So, on Saturday is the city's first Outfest. It's for National Coming Out Day. It is organized by me out of the mayor's office in partnership with the LGBTQIA plus Commission. It is going to be a wonderful day of celebration. We are holding it at Hazelwood Green from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Saturday, October 11th. There will be live performances. DJ Honey will be there. We're going to have a bounce house in case children want to go and have fun. We're going to have a ton of wonderful community organizations and small businesses. Roughly half of all of the businesses that have registered are LGBTQIA owned, which is really difficult usually. So I'm really happy with those numbers. And so if any of you are available, if you're interested in attending, if you want to uplift this and let other people know about it, I really want it to be a well-attended event because I think it's really, really important to uplift the LGBTQIA community, especially at a time where that community is really facing a lot of difficult challenges legally, politically, health-wise, et cetera. And so if any of you are interested in attending or know people that would like to attend, please uplift that event. Does anybody have any other announcements before I move to my last one? Which I don't want to end on a sad note by any means, but this will be my last Gender Equity Commission meeting. It is pretty normal when a mayoral administration ends that most of the staff have to find new jobs. And I am one of those staff where it was very unlikely for me to be able to go into a department. And so I did find a job. I will be working at the county in the treasurer's office starting later this month. But do not worry because all of you are in wonderful hands. I'm not going anywhere. I'm still in Pittsburgh and I'm still right across the street. But also, Stephanie Gagney, which is a wonderful coworker of mine and also a close personal friend of mine, who is on today. She is going to be the new Gender Equity Commission staffer for at least the rest of the Gagney administration. She's not going anywhere. She's going to stay in city government. So she is going to be much more accessible than I am in those moments. She also has a history of working in reproductive rights and justice and has been a phenomenal supporter of gender equity. And so, I wouldn't have tapped her for this if I didn't think she was more than capable and absolutely wonderful to be in this position. But Steph, if you want to say anything, you're more than welcome to. But yeah, I just wanted to let everybody know that I'm going to be transitioning all of that info over to Stephanie.
Yeah, hi everyone. It's Adriana. I see a lot of familiar faces, so that's exciting to be able to work with you all again. Yeah, I'm kind of excited to take this over from Adriana and all the great work you guys have been doing. So like she had said, I'll be hopefully transitioning into DOMI in the new year as the Vision Zero coordinator. That's part of my job now. Just kind of moving on over there. But yeah, definitely this is a passion of mine. Really have focused on reproductive rights in the past, but obviously gender equity is an important issue now more than ever. So yeah, just looking forward to working with all of you. And feel free to reach out. I'll drop my email and I think I'm on the chain. So feel free to reach out anytime before the next meeting too.
Thanks, Steph. Does anybody have any questions about that whatsoever?
When is the exact date that we're looking at that we should start reaching out to Stephanie?
Oh, yeah. My last day is next Friday.
Oh, no.
So October 17th is my last day. And again, like if anybody's hitting a wall and Steph needs me, and many of you have my number too. Like there's no reason why you can't reach out to me. But Steph will start to take all of the Gender Equity Commission responsibilities after October 17th.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you. I wasn't gonna leave you guys high and dry. Don't you worry. But yeah, so as I said before, I'm going to be working with Steph on the current recommendations you've made, ensuring that she's fully up to date on what we're doing with the survey. I'm going to make sure you guys have the minutes prior to me leaving so that that doesn't have to be on her plate. And if you have any questions, thoughts, concerns prior to me leaving, just let me know. Okay. Wonderful. All right. Not seeing any questions. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Hi.
Yay. All those against, please say nay. Wonderful. Have a great month. I will see you all soon.